The web of intrigue in Genoa City, the deceptive redemption of Ian Ward in Genoa City, where secrets and schemes weave the very fabric of relationships, Ian Ward re-emerged with a cunning plan. Known for his manipulative past, Ian sought to reinvent himself as a changed man. He wanted the world to believe he had abandoned his dark ways, trading his sinister reputation for one of redemption. But beneath the polished facade, Ian remained as calculating as ever. A masterful manipulation. Ian's target in this elaborate charade was Jordan, a woman with her own questionable past. To everyone else, Jordan seemed like just another unsuspecting pawn. To Ian, she was the perfect tool to further his agenda. Ian approached Victor Newman, his longtime adversary, and offered an enticing piece of information. He claimed to know the identity of Sharon's kidnapper. Victor, ever the skeptic, was wary of Ian's motives. Years of betrayal had taught Victor to trust no one, especially not Ian Ward. Yet, Ian's offer came with a cruel twist of necessity. Sharon's life was at stake. Victor, Nick, and their family found themselves with no choice but to listen. Ian held the key to Sharon's location, and time was running out. The calculated betrayal behind the scenes, Ian carefully orchestrated Jordan's downfall. While he presented himself as an ally to her, Ian had no intention of sharing his newfound virtue. He manipulated Jordan, feeding her false promises of partnership and mutual benefit. Little did she know, Ian was setting her up to take the fall for his own misdeeds. As the clock ticked, Ian made his move. He leaked damning information that led to Jordan's arrest, framing her as the mastermind behind Sharon's abduction. To Ian, Jordan was disposable, a temporary ally whose usefulness had expired. Whether she rotted in prison or met an untimely demise was of no concern to him. In Ian's world, survival meant sacrificing anyone who could threaten his plans. Ian's vision for the future. Ian's betrayal wasn't merely about self-preservation. He saw Jordan as a potential threat down the line. Her loyalty was fickle, and Ian knew it. She was a survivor, just like him, and survivors were dangerous when pushed into a corner. Ian foresaw a future where Jordan would turn against him, jeopardizing everything he had worked to build. Eliminating her was not just an act of betrayal, it was an act of preemptive self-defense. What Ian truly cared about was power, his own power. His redemption arc was a ruse, a means to regain influence and control. Ian didn't just want to be seen as a good man, he wanted to be untouchable, a figure admired and feared in equal measure. Jordan's removal from the equation was just one more step in his master plan. The tipping point, Victor and Nick's dilemma. Victor and Nick, despite their deep mistrust of Ian, had no other leads. Ian had backed them into a corner, leaving them with one agonizing question: could they afford to ignore him? As much as they despised Ian, they couldn't gamble with Sharon's life. Ian's information was their only hope of finding her before it was too late. Ian revealed Sharon's supposed location, but true to his nature, he left just enough ambiguity to maintain control. Victor, Nick, and their team rushed to the site, desperate to uncover the truth. But Ian's motives lingered in their minds. Was this another trap? Could they truly trust a man whose life was built on lies? The climactic confrontation. When Nick and Victor arrived at the location Ian provided, they were met with an eerie silence. The abandoned warehouse loomed ominously, its shadow stretching across the desolate landscape. Inside, they found traces of Sharon's presence, an article of clothing, a broken bracelet, but no Sharon. Instead, they stumbled upon something far more chilling, a recording left by Ian himself. In the recording, Ian's voice dripped with mockery and satisfaction. "Did you really think I'd hand her over so easily?" he taunted. "The game isn't over yet. If you want her back, you'll have to play by my rules." Victor's fury erupted, and Nick's heart sank. Ian had used them, dangling Sharon's safety like a carrot on a stick. They realized they had underestimated him once again. Ian had played them like pawns in his twisted game, all while cementing his image as a reformed man in the public eye. What comes next? The question remains, where is Sharon? And will Victor, Nick, and their family outwit Ian Ward before it's too late? Ian's betrayal of Jordan and his manipulation of the Newmans showcase his mastery of deception. But even the most cunning of villains eventually face consequences. As the search for Sharon intensifies, so does the desire for justice. Ian may have outsmarted his enemies for now, but Genoa City has a way of exposing even the darkest secrets. In a world where loyalty is scarce and trust is fleeting, the battle between good and evil rages on. Ian Ward's path to redemption was nothing but a lie. The question is, how far will his lies take him before the truth catches up? Jordan's unexpected betrayal. Jordan never imagined Ian Ward would betray her. After everything she had done for him, scheming, lying, and aiding his plots, she believed they shared a mutual goal, revenge against Victor Newman. But Ian's treachery cut deep. He had manipulated her, used her as a pawn in his grander game, and discarded her without hesitation. For Jordan, the betrayal was not just personal, it was an unforgivable crime. Now, Jordan's anger burned brighter than ever. Her desire for vengeance was no longer limited to Victor, it was aimed squarely at Ian. She vowed to make him pay for his deceit. But deep down, a part of her knew this was inevitable. Ian Ward didn't trust anyone, his loyalty extended only to himself. His selfishness and willingness to destroy anyone in his path made him a monster, and Jordan cursed herself for ever believing otherwise. Nick's desperation. Meanwhile, Nick Newman's sole focus was on rescuing Sharon. The thought of her in danger, alone and frightened, consumed him. He didn't care about Ian's games or Jordan's vendettas, all he cared about was bringing Sharon home. When Ian finally revealed a location, a seemingly abandoned house on the outskirts of Genoa City, Nick didn't hesitate. He knew it could be a trap, but he was willing to risk everything. Victor warned him to be cautious, but Nick's desperation overpowered his better judgment. Armed with nothing but hope and determination, he set off for the address Ian had provided. The lonely house the house Ian described was a desolate structure, shrouded in shadows and silence. Its dilapidated exterior bore no signs of life, yet Nick felt a sense of urgency as he approached. The door creaked open with an eerie groan, and he stepped inside, his heart pounding. The air was thick with tension, and every creak of the floorboards echoed ominously. Nick called out Sharon's name, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. At first, there was no response, only the unsettling quiet of an empty house. But then, from somewhere deep within, he heard a faint sound. It was muffled, almost imperceptible, but unmistakably human. Nick's adrenaline surged as he followed the noise, his steps quickening as he moved through the maze of rooms. The shocking discovery in the basement, Nick found her. Sharon was bound to a chair, her face pale but her eyes alive with hope when she saw him. "Nick," she cried, her voice hoarse but filled with relief. He rushed to her side, tearing at the ropes that held her captive. But just as he freed her, a sharp click echoed through the room. The sound was chillingly familiar, a trigger being pulled. Nick froze, turning slowly to see a figure emerge from the shadows. It was Ian Ward. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" Ian sneered, his eyes glinting with malice. He held a gun, aiming it steadily at Nick and Sharon. "I gave you the address, but did you really think I'd let you waltz in here and ruin my plans?" Sharon clung to Nick, her fear palpable. Nick, unarmed and outmatched, raised his hands defensively. "Let her go, Ian," he said firmly. "You've already made your point. This isn't going to end well for you." Ian laughed, a cold and hollow sound. "Oh, Nick. Always the hero. But this isn't about you, or even Sharon. This is about me. Everything I've done has been for my own gain, and I don't plan on stopping now." A twist of fate. Just as Ian prepared to pull the trigger, the sound of sirens pierced the night air. Ian's expression faltered, and for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. Unbeknownst to Nick, Victor had anticipated Ian's treachery and had called the police. They had surrounded the house, their flashing lights illuminating the darkness outside. Ian cursed under his breath. "This isn't over," he growled, backing toward the door. But before he could escape, Jordan appeared. She had followed Ian, driven by her thirst for revenge, and now stood blocking his path. "You're not going anywhere," she said, her voice cold and steady. "Not after what you did to me." Ian hesitated, realizing he was cornered. For once, his manipulative charm couldn't save him. The police stormed in moments later, guns drawn, and Ian was forced to surrender. As they led him away in handcuffs, his eyes met Jordan's. There was no remorse, only disdain, a final insult from a man who had betrayed everyone who trusted him. The aftermath. Nick and Sharon embraced tightly, relief washing over them as the nightmare came to an end. Sharon, though shaken, was safe. Nick's gamble had paid off, but he knew the scars of this ordeal would linger. Victor arrived shortly after, his expression unreadable as he surveyed the scene. He exchanged a brief nod with Nick, a rare moment of understanding between father and son. Despite their differences, they had both fought to save Sharon and bring Ian to justice. As for Jordan, her revenge was bittersweet. Ian Ward was defeated, but the damage he caused would not be easily undone. She disappeared into the night, vowing to rebuild her life and never fall prey to another manipulative monster again. A fragile peace in the days that followed, life in Genoa City began to return to normal. But the events of Ian Ward's schemes left a lasting impact. For Nick and Sharon, the ordeal brought them closer together, strengthening their bond in the face of adversity. For Victor, it was a reminder that even the most cunning enemies could be defeated with the right strategy. And for Ian Ward, it was the end of the line, or so it seemed. As he sat in his prison cell, a sly smile played on his lips. Ian Ward was a survivor, and he always had a plan. His redemption might have been a lie, but his determination to rise again was very real. For now, Genoa City could breathe easy. But everyone knew that in a town like this, peace was always fleeting.